Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to season 3 of the Blue Collar Workers. This is our first podcast of season 3. We're now entering our second year with this one.
And I'm making an influence on him every day. Look how actually neat and proper he looks today.
It was the closest thing that was thrown on. He assumes it was me looking proper. He's joking.
No, the fact that it's actually maintained up here.
Oh, no, the hair was doing my nutting.
Yeah, it's maintained up here. That's rarity.
Yeah, that's true. Welcome back again to the Blue Collar Workers. I hope you've had a lovely Christmas. To everyone who has a problem with me wishing Christians and British people happy Christmas, kiss my ass. That's a major Christmas holiday. I don't believe in happy holidays. I think that's disingenuous. People are not enjoying a holiday, they're enjoying Christmas. Let's just basically get that out of the fucking air. For the Christian community and the pseudo-Christian British society, it is a cultural thing that they engage in Christmas. Now, I don't. Alhamdulillah, as people might know, but I have a problem with people saying, oh, you should say holiday because it's more neutral. No, it's not. We're getting away from what it means for the secular and liberal Britain's general, greatest holiday of the year for them.
So and the fact everywhere says it's Christmas time, it's self-explanatory.
Yeah, exactly. So happy Christmas to everyone who's had a lovely Christmas. I spent most of it cooking.
And a drunken New Year.
Well, for those of you who drink, yes, absolutely. Thank you for returning for our podcast as always. We're just a pair of working men giving our views on the politics of our country. As always, this is your voice, your nation. We appreciate any and all commentary that is given to us. Today, over at my side, oh shit, I have our co-host. Sorry, yes, I'm John Sean or Yucca, and that's Chris.
Nice to meet you.
I almost forgot he was here because I'm a cunt as usual. The UK is to offer military gap years to boost recruitment across the British military for young teenagers and 20-year-olds. Labour could oust Starmer, he could elegantly step aside, but without a plan it will be for nothing. Polly Tombury from The Guardian has given comments that I want to read through with you. Abdul El Fattah's citizenship row shows shift on question of national identity. Ellen Cowell, political correspondent activist, was entitled to UK passport, but for a rising number of voters, Britishness is something you are born with. And I am going to tackle that head on because I don't believe that in the slightest. Lastly, on my side, the Cabinet Office accused of cover-up after releasing official papers referring to the kiddie-fiddling Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Oh, I'm sorry, am I not allowed to call him a kiddie-fiddler?
You're speaking the truth. What difference does that make?
Obviously. Over on Chris's side, we have
what experts think we will do with our savings in 2026. I thought a nice little thing to see what they think we're going to spend our money on. What would happen if landlords are squeezed too much by the government? Blair not sharing Selfield info with Ireland.
Prick.
Train ticket prices going up despite going digital. And I thought I'd end on a nice positive one. Tech bro would plan to cut electric bills in Britain.
I'm Blair. It's all over the fucking press at the moment, Blair, and he makes my fucking skin crawl. When we get to that, there's going to be a lot of effing and blinding, and I apologise to everybody. I don't like that cunt. I like him less than David Cameron, and I've got grievances against David Cameron. I think David Cameron was one of the better MPs we've had in a very long time as Prime Ministers. Rishi Sunak wasn't bad. I think that's unfair.
He was short-lived.
He was too short-lived. Yeah, he arrived too late. That was his problem. Anyway, gap years scheme to be given schools and college leavers a taste of the Army, Royal Navy or RAF without a long-term commitment is to be launched by the government. The course is aimed at under 25s and is part of an effort to solve long-term recruitment and retention problems in the armed forces. Applicants will be part of the first 150 recruits opened in the spring, with plans for a number to grow to 1,000 young people a year. The programme will be paid by officials have yet to announce a salary. Defence Secretary John Haley said the scheme would offer young people incredible skills and training. However, the Conservatives criticised the small numbers of recruits. Recruiting to the gap year programme will not be deployed on active operations, and the content of the courses is still said to be developed. The Army scheme would see recruits receive 13 weeks of basic training as part of the 2-week placement, whilst the Navy scheme would last a year, and provide a general training for sailors. According to the newspaper external, the RAF scheme is less developed. I like this idea. I agree with the Conservative criticisms about lack of numbers. I think it should be something like 5 or even 10,000 offered to them and paid for by the state to see if they wanted to be interested in the military. I think that the numbers are too low in how many people are being recruited into the system. Under a separate scheme, the Army currently offers 30 gap years placements for young people before, during or immediately after university, and only for those considering officer training, though fewer than 10 people enroll in the last academical year. These new gap year schemes is expected to be open more widely. The Minister of Defence says that those who join the programme will learn leadership, teamwork and problem-solving skills to set them up for life, whatever they're pursuing a career in the armed forces or not. Officers hope that the scheme will bring a broader range of people into the forces and that some decide to stay to pursue a career in the military. These are good things, but they should be expanded. Your thoughts? Yeah?
I think it's a good stepping stone to start off with, because obviously we do need more people within the military.
Yeah.
Also, I know not everyone's up for it and everything else, but for the ones that are and are not quite sure how to go about it without committing themselves too much,
yeah,
I reckon this is a good start-off point.
Absolutely. I mean, if it is a non-committed year, I like that. And it's paid for by the state, that's even better. And it will give discipline. I don't understand how anybody could be wrong with this. I think
Structure.
And structure. Discipline, structure, career skills. I think this is a brilliant idea. Brilliant idea. As a family comes together at this time of the year and young people think about their futures, I want the outstanding opportunities on offer in our armed forces to be part of the conversation in homes across the UK, Hayden said. I agree with the Defence Secretary entirely.
Because that year within the military, whichever branch you go into, can open up pathways you didn't know existed for the career you might be going into.
Yeah. Or you might realise the career you wanted wasn't fit because of what you've learned whilst in the military, and step up to a far more greater...
change paths slightly for a more different route.
The Defence Secretary echoed his remarks when announcing the government's defence strategy in the summer, in which he said that the threats the UK now face require a new era of defence. Haley had also said that the scheme was part of the government's whole of society approach to defence and deterrence, including preventing a potential confrontation with Russia. Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge said, as ever with Labour, the reality does not match the spin. A scheme involving just 150 participants is barely a pilot, let alone a whole of a society response they claim to be delivering. He added that whilst the Australian scheme, this one was based on has its strengths, the tiny number do nothing for our war readiness. Cartledge said that the Tories were serious about defending our country, pointing to its proposal to move up to 50 billion from climate and science funding into defence. The Gap Year scheme was a recommendation of the government's strategic defence review in June, inspired by similar schemes in Australia's defence forces, which is opening to young people aged between 17 and 24. I do think 150 is too short. That should be more like 500 or even 1,000 a year, just by that virtue in the opening door. Get 1,000 kids in there a year. Bang, 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 bang. I think that would probably do us a lot better.
You've got to get the numbers first.
Yeah.
So you've got to make it enticing.
Definitely. The scheme has been in operation for
not
more...
necessarily enticing, more easier to access.
Yeah, that'll do. The scheme has been in operation for more than a decade, with applicants offering the chance to get a feel for the military life whilst enjoying unique experiences you can't find anywhere else. 2023, 664 people enlisted, with a little more than half of them going into the permanent role in the National Armed Military. The UK Gap Year programme is part of several proposals to boost the number of people with military experiences. The government also hoped to increase the number of cadets by 30%. Other European nations, such as France and Germany, have recently reintroduced some form of voluntary national service in response to the threat posed by Russia. Lord Richard Dannett, who served as the head of the army from 2006 to 2009, told the BBC Radio 4 Today programme that the UK Gap Year scheme would have an impact in the margins when it came to a threat posed by Russia. He said it would play a little bit towards improving recruiting, adding, but rather more importantly, it gives us a number of people who may well choose a different career path in life, some exposed to the armed forces, some exposed to the discipline and problem-solving skills. I agree. I just don't think it's ambitious enough. It's
a stepping stone. I think they're trying, as I call it, they're treading the water to see what attention it attracts.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it's not forced, as long as it's not forced and it's optional and the benefits are there clear, I think that's a good thing. I genuinely think it's a good thing.
So as long as they keep it transparent so people know what they're getting into, I think it's on for a winner.
Yeah.
But at the moment, they're literally, as of course, sticking the toe in the water to see what bites.
This is true. This is true. That's my first. Over to you, my boy.
My first one. What savers will do with their savings, according to experts, for 2026. After the excesses of December, January brings a marked change in how the nation thinks about money. Festive spending gives way to the reality of credit card statements landing, prompting households across the UK to reassess what they have left, where it is sitting, and if their money is still working hard enough.
How's your wallet feeling now that Christmas is out the way?
My wallet barely got a dent in it.
Ooh, man was tight with the Christmas presents this year.
No, it wasn't actually. I actually doubled my expenditure from last year and it still didn't fit my wallet.
Oh, damn.
This year, the reassessment carries a heightened sense of urgency as households face elevated living costs, falling interest rates, and frozen tax thresholds, quietly pushing more people into the higher tax brands. The iPaper spoke to experts to find out what their clients are doing with their money, what savers should consider in the new year, and what they need to bear in mind before taking any drastic steps. Anthony Vills, managing director of the financial planning firm First Wealth, said he is seeing clients redirecting their funds into three main areas: early ISA contributions to ensure full use of tax-free allowance before April, pension top-ups for those seeking to maximise tax relief, and a shift of cash into diverse investments designed to outpace inflation over the medium to long term. To be quite honest, that's actually quite sensible.
Yeah.
I'm glad people are starting to get their heads screwed on. Many are doing so to protect funds against tax and to ensure they don't lose money in real terms during a high inflation environment. Despite this movement, Villas stressed that having access to cash that isn't locked away continues to play an important role. The starting point should always be the same question: how much cash do I actually need? Cash remains essential for emergency funds, short-term spending, and providing stability during market volatility. But beyond those purposes, it can be very surprisingly poor long-term home for wealth. Basically saying cash isn't as strong as what it used to be. Well, physical cash anyway. Rethinking cash savings. One of the clearest changes we're seeing is growing reluctance to leave larger sums sitting in cash without a clear purpose. With interest rates falling from recent highs now down to 3.7%, while inflation remains above target at 3.2%, many easy access savings accounts are now delivering negative real returns, promoting savers to question long-term standing habits. Locking money away for long periods of time can offer higher returns than easy access accounts where you can take out your money at any time. This is because even though rates may not be high, they will accrue more interest over time and will be protected against any drops in interest rates which are expected in 2026. Low interest rates tends to mean banks lowering their savings rates, meaning consumers get a lower return on their money. Sally Conwell, head of the savings of Shawbrook Bank, said anticipation of interest rate cuts by the Bank of England in the new year is fueling a rise in demand for fixed rate accounts. As further savers look to lock in current higher rates, it is important though to assess your individual financial goals and consider whether a long-term commitment aligns with your financial needs. Which is true. Richard Dunner, founder of the chief executive of mortgage and savings platform Tembo, added, with the base rate now below 4%, there's a clear shift towards fixed rate savings as people look for certainty and want to lock in a competitive return while rates remain relatively high by recent standards. Many of the top fixed dealers offer rates of over 4%, but are likely to fall if the Bank of England cuts its base rates. For those who may want flexibility, there are more easy access accounts offering decent returns, with Chase leading the pack with an interest rate of 4.5%.
Is that really enough, though? Opinion?
It depends on which way you want to go saving, because obviously there's always
The need to be able to pull money out.
money you got available, your plan, and your time frame. Depends on which route you take, because there are several routes. Because if you got a decent amount to use for savings, but you want a quick return, which means higher risk, which means different forms of saving, which will involve stocks and everything else, you can do it that way. Or there's as I call the standard way, using the savings account, where you can lock in a decent rate for so long and then switch it at the end to another account with a better savings rate for that time. It depends on your goal, really. But if you're looking for long-term sustainability, stick to the normal and do your research and lock in that lovely savings account, and don't leave money sat in one place. This is one thing I've learned.
Yeah, that's wise, because if you do that, you endanger it.
The only thing that should be sat in one place for long term is your pension. Because and even then, when you notice things are starting to dip, you need to change to a more locked in one. And that's something you always need to consider. Pension should be the only long term one. Everything else, it should be no more than 3 to 5 years max, and you're switching it out and consistently moving it. Because every savings account, after you've done your locked in deal, you can take your money out and bugger off somewhere else. Use it. Make the most money out of whoever's giving the most at the time.
Yeah, I mean, financially speaking, I would say you need to be more careful with your money now, Britain. You need to be more conservative of what you do with your money. I think it's important to mention that people can't be willy-nilly anymore. They can't be frugal, not frugal, wrong word. You can't be frivolous, is what I was thinking, with your money.
I always say, because some people, obviously everybody has different things of how much you should have spare in your account, but due to current economic things and bills and everything else, I always say at least a quarter to a third of your paycheck should always remain in your bank account.
Yes, good sense.
Because then that way, you know, you're never expending too much. You're not going, shit, I'm strapped for cash. You've always got that buffer. And you know, if for whatever reason you miss a shift or two due to illness or whatever, because I know sick pay is rather shite.
Sick pay's fucking ghastly.
Yeah, and all that lovely rubbish. You know you got that buffer there, because if you've done that for 2-3 months and you haven't touched it, and you miss a couple of shifts, you know you've got that buff to comp you for that month. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying stick in large amounts, just a decent amount of your wage, stick to the side so you know it's there in case anything comes up.
Yeah.
For example, if you own a car and something goes wrong with it on the MOT,
or you want to spend expensive stuff on that car, which is your little boy racer toy.
Yeah, that's coming soon.
Fucking man-child Exhibit A.
Hey, I saved up the money.
True.
Fucking spending it on what I want.
True. And I can't really talk. I mean, I have literally got a boy racer motorbike. He's kettle calling pot black, because it really is. I have literally got a boy racer motorbike.
I'm the one with the expensive boy racer car. He's the one with the expensive boy racer bike. So
I mean, I'm not exactly. I'm shoveling dirt, but I've got it on me. Let's be fair about this. Which is a typical thing for me. Anyway, moving on. Labour could oust Starmer. He could elegantly step aside, but without a plan, it will be for nothing. Polly Tonby from The Guardian. Ooh.
Right, if you oust Starmer, you need to replace it with someone which scraps the fucking digital ID.
Yeah. That it was. For all the talks of coups, this is much as clear. Without a strong vision, Labour will face a fresh crisis of legitimacy.
And I've got more info on that digital ID, which I need to verify before I release it, but it will be coming in the next one.
Will he still be here to see the next year?
No.
Don't know. Noise about Keir Starmer's durability question quietened with MPs being away from Westminster. Tears rooms and murmuring corridors, but WhatsApp zing to and fro just as busily. Should he stay or should he go? Any party that has fallen so fast would doubt its leaders. At minus 54%, Starmer have been declared the most unpopular MP ever, a title also held at one time by his 4 predecessors, giving him Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. Starmer have in common whatever comes next may join their most despised club in a time of anti-political volatility. Internally, Labour wrangles over what gained from changing the face at the top and what losses in political stability after the mad Tory years of number 10, revolving door, post-Brexit referendums, changing PMs 4 times in 8 years, all but destroyed the once natural party of government. With everything unpredicted, history is no guide. Only party loyalties are dying. Old party loyalties are dying, and new parties are making extravagant promises, and they are. Let's take Pulaski on the left amongst the Greens. He's making some fucking. Have you seen any of his stuff recently?
I've seen a couple of points that he's been making. I'm like, how the fuck are you going to implement that, dude?
How are you going to afford it? Now, at the end of the day, I like the vibe he's got because he's talking about fixing the system.
He's got a positive vibe, but I think his plans are a bit
left.
bit too far out there. You need to rein it in, boy. Bring it.
But he wants to fix the system, which is a very positive. I've got nothing bad. I don't think that Chris even has anything bad to talk about Pulaski. I think as the Green Party leader, he's got an energy about him, and I get why the energetic left want to support him. I personally think that his ideas are unpractical. Chris thinks they're unaffordable.
He's got the positivity to make the change, but the areas he's trying to make change in are just too far out of reach. With our current climate, you're overstretching, boy. You need to rein it in.
But at no point are we criticising his energy, his goals. The Green Party leader is an awakened machine. And then there's the tweed-wearing banking cunt on the right that I absolutely fucking despise. In the Times, Farzan Nelson, the recent Spectator editor, discourages Labour from ditching its leaders, warning it not to hallucinate about miraculous powers of fresh face. A new PM would need a new mandate, he writes. Without this, cabinet rifts become harder to control, backbenchers harder to tame, things start to fall apart. Usually such leaders end up calling an election either to seek a personal mandate, Theresa May, or put the party out of its agony, Sunak, or just because he can no longer control parliamentarian, James Cunningham. But everyone cherry picks from history, and this advice is not from a Labour well-wishing, disingenuous councillor coming from the Sunday Times. Labour still does not have a good reason to dump its elected Prime Minister. Failure is a good reason. Peter Kellner, pollster and analyst chosen from history, the examples of John Major's successes, replacing Margaret Thatcher in 1990 after she had sunk to her lowest. His rating scores to 61, and he scored a 4th consecutive Tory victory in 1992. Major was remarkable only in his insignificance, but Thatcher's unpopularity had become an albatross. That's what the Labour would-be defendators say of Starmer. Voters on the doorstep detest him. Yes, he's fucking useless. Digital ID, he's the only person, him in his cabinet, are the only people trying to ram home this disgusting law section and facial recognition cameras and that lot. He is despised, and there's a good reason for his despising. Where was I? The venom against a man who is serious and decent with an impressive tally of good done is a mystery to me. He might lack oratory and charisma, he might waver in direction, but after the Prime Ministers we've had just suffered, the sinister detestation springs from a deep fury against governments and ruling politicians. How long would a new leader bounce last? However, if May's elections return cataclysmic results with backbench and cabinet in front and no light on the horizon, Labour may do what it has never done. To avoid being the first formally ousted Labour MP, Starmer could, with elegance and dignity, stand down saying, I have done my best, time for someone else. That's never happened, but we live in unpredictable times. We do. Do you think he'd stand down? Or do you think he has to be pushed down?
No, he won't. He's going to need to be pushed down.
Yeah.
He's
I fundamentally don't think he'll push the thing. And I think the previously disgraced Deputy Prime Minister Rayner should take his place. I genuinely do.
Bold claim.
And the reason, no, before you get off on it, yes, she's made tax. She shouldn't be allowed anywhere near money, but the visionism of what she wants about nationalising the country's assets. That's the woman that's talking about putting the trains and the power and the water back in our ownership.
Have you been listening to our podcasts?
No. She's been doing it for a while. So I think she would actually be a better party leader. Your nemesis would be in the running. Your nemesis would be in the running.
I've got more bones to pick with her.
Pick the fucking bones clean, mate. Pick them clean. When it becomes undeniable that the 2010 election would be lost, Gordon Brown should have stood aside, enhancing his reputation. A self-efforting Stemmer's resignation would make selecting the next leader a less damaging drama. The obvious candidates are good. Wes Sterling, Angela Rayner, I didn't even read that far down. Andy Burnham are all clever, practiced, but they all have to prove what change means. I think Angela Rayner would be my top choice. Out of those, you'd probably go Andy Burnham, wouldn't you? The mayor of Birmingham, the guy who's talking about cutting all the waste.
I probably would go Andy Birmingham.
Yeah.
The only way Rayner would actually win probably 90% of the people back. So if she turned around and said, "Here's the payment bill. I've paid my tax."
Yeah. She needs to come clean and honest with that and say that's done and dusted. But I think she could do it.
I would say if she turned around and done that, most people are like, okay, she's recognised she's done an error. She's actually paid her bill. Fair dues. Okay, let's hear your points.
Yeah.
Then she'd have a good standing around.
Yeah.
But at the moment, she's got that tax bill waving over her head, and if she doesn't pay it, she ain't going to win the vote.
No, I guess not, because most Labour voters would be very temperamental about that.
Yeah.
Don't bother swapping leaders for the optics at Oracle. Labour MPs need to unite reason why, with neither the dismal dirge of Blue Labour nor a fanciful Corbynite reprisal. Change has to mean escape from the ill-conceived manifestos by openly declaring, since that was written, the world has changed beyond recognition. Donald Trump is president, tearing up alliances. Europe is at war. The global economy is threatened by a gigantic AI bubble. The far right is on the march. Discard tax pledges that distort budget priorities, abandon Brexit red lines, free us to get as close to Europe as Europe will agree, bring in proposal representation immediately to rescue democracy for five-party politics, cleanse donations from Westminster. I agree with those policies. I agree with those points.
That is a lot of work to do.
But I agree with that. Discard tax pledges.
That is what I call bringing it back in line with harshness.
Yeah. Distort budget priorities, abandon Brexit red lines, like that. Free us to get as close to Europe as Europe will agree and we will agree to. So get close, but don't fucking,
As I call it, become
a close ally, trading ally.
As I call it, become the business partner without actually entering the business.
Yeah. Bring in proportional representation. I think that would be an amazing thing. Immediately to rescue democracy for a five-party politics, cleanse donations from Westminster. Absolutely. Because there's always rumours of money, like Russian money in fucking Tories, Chinese money in fucking goddamn Labour. Someone's money is in someone else's fucking pocket, not the British people. And that's one of the things I like about what Zelensky says. Because he makes a point about, a big point about the donations from Westminster. The government has been overwhelmed by a lack of money, and that won't change. Considering the Resolution Foundation's grim assessment of its constrictions, a new leader has to say how they would do any better. What new Belos could ignite the embers of a growth, admit the magnitude of the problem with honesty to call out Nigel Farage and Green's fanciful accounting. I like how they put Nigel Farage and the Greens fantasy accounting together. Because that's what it is. The Greens have lovely ideas. They're warm and fluffy. They're not paid for. Nigel Farage is evil and will do anything to get into power. We need to make that distinction. Yeah? The Greens, they want to save everybody. The trees, the plants, the people. We love you, but you can't do that. Yeah? It's soft, it's fluffy, but it's not achievable.
You need balance.
Yeah, you do.
And
Nigel Farage, fuck off, you're evil. We don't have an opinion of that.
You're the definition of greed.
Yeah. You literally. We've seen who your fucking allies are, Nigel Farage. We've seen who your backers are. You've got Elon Musk, the fucking literal neo-Nazi from fucking South Africa, who fell out with... What do you have to do to fall out with the evil that is Donald Trump? The fucking anti-Messiah, the corporate greed. How bad do you have to be a person as Elon Musk to fall out with fucking goddamn Donald Trump? I mean, it's mind-blowing. It really is. It's not just a matter of better worlds. It's a matter of an accountable government. I thought that was well written, personally, from The Guardian.
Yeah.
I think that they get some really stoke points, especially about our economical needs. Better growth, cleanse fucking Westminster of its donations. It's got to be purged, Chris. It's fucking nightmare stuff. And I do think proportional representation is absolutely necessary. I think that's a necessary thing that we need to bring in before the next election.
That's cool. That's everything that's suggested there is bringing everything back into line to the way it should be.
To the British people, absolutely. Anyway, back to you, my boy.
What would happen if governments squeeze landlords too hard? And I thought this is an interesting one. Seems a fair chunk of people do rent.
I think it's more than half the country these days.
Yeah. Portugal and New Zealand have relaxed landlord laws to encourage buy-to-let investments, which is what experts are calling an important lesson for Labour. Yeah. New Zealand has reversed a 5-year ban on no-fault evictions, while ministers in Portugal are consulting on plans to cut income tax for landlords after tougher legalisation backfired. Experts have warned that unless the UK follows suit, more landlords will be pushed out and the housing crisis will spiral. If it comes as the British government presses ahead with tougher regulation on buy-to-let investors, despite warnings it could drive rents up to record highs. Why are you imposing tougher regulations on buy-to-let?
To be fair, Chris, you've got to understand London has a horrific fucking renting scene. Yeah. The renting scene in London is horrific. So I understand 1/10 of our population lives in London.
Yeah.
And of the renting population, more than 20% of the renting population lives in London. Damn. So there is this cyst. So the rest of the country isn't so bad. Birmingham, Manchester, they're not that bad. And the countryside's far better when it comes to renting. The cyst is London. London has to be burst. It's a horrific renting problem. And that's what the article isn't making a point of. It's glossing over. It's taking a look at the rest of the country, which is fair. The rest of Britain doesn't need these rules. London absolutely does.
From May the 1st, Labour's flagship Renters' Rights Act will come into force, banning no-fault evictions and leaving landlords with waits of up to 8 months to regain access to their homes. Landlords are leaving the sector in response. In July, 20% of all newly listed homes for sales in the capital were former rentals.
And stop, that's important. And that's a good thing, Chris. Do you know why? Because the capital has a massive fucking problem with landlords taking the fucking piss.
Yeah.
So I'm actually pleased about that. You look at this from Microsoft. The rest of the country, it might be a problem. But for London, it's a cure. Because London has a horrific renting problem.
According to analytics from 20CI, this was up from 15.6% in July 2023 and 12.9% in July 2019. Dwindling supply has driven rent in London to a record 2,736, according to property website. Right. Fuck.
Yeah. Horrific.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Ben Beadle of the NRLA said the renters' rights is a disaster waiting to happen if landlords are already facing an almost 8-month wait to legally take possession of their homes at a time when the number of claims is failing. Then what can we expect when the inevitable avalanche of claims drops post Renters' Rights Act?
From my perception, London's problems have to be addressed.
Yeah.
Because the landlords have been using it abusively non-stop.
Paul, I can't pronounce your name. Sorry, Paul. Sampolina.
Paul Sampolini,
founder of the Landlord Action Campaign Group, said, "When you look at what New Zealand and Portugal are doing, it's hard not to ask why the UK is heading in the opposite direction."
Because London is a monstrous fucking cyst. Because there is constant complaints about how London people who rent in London, are treated. There's a justifiable grievance.
New Zealand was forced to reintroduce nil-fault evictions after a landlord exodus hit supply levels. In 2020, Jacinda Ardern's Labour government banned no-case evictions. 4 years later, the current government announced amendments to the Residential Tenants Act, which came into force in January this year. Now, landlords can end a periodic tenancy without a specific reason if they give 90 days notice. This can end a tenancy with less notice, 42 days, if they or a family member is moving back into the property. Landlords can also end a fixed term tenancy at the end of its term without cause. Well, to be quite honest, that's understandable. What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that.
No.
But as again, those policies don't even, that level of policy doesn't even exist in London.
That's crazy.
You can get evicted in 30 days in London. With no reason. So I remind you, much of the reason that they're bringing this law in, because when you write laws, you have to do it for the whole country.
Yeah. Is
because of the system that is London. There has to be a way that you can make this apply to the London borough area and not the rest of the country.
Yeah. I said that what that just said there, 90 days notice to kick someone out, that's cool, that's 3 months, that gives you plenty of time, which most people will be fine with. 42 days, okay, a month and a half, but then that's a family member coming back to their own property. I'm sorry, tenant, you're out. And if it's come to the end of the tenancy and they want to do something else with it, they're well within their rights to. So I'm sorry, tenants, but
I just, yes and no. Yes, if everything is reasonable. No, because again, I have to defend the Labour position, not because I agree with it across the entire country. I want to be very, very clear there, Chris. It's, you have to see the horrific fucking standards of renting in London. 2,700, and some of those are box rooms. Literally, that's not a joke. There is a horrific level of renting problems in London.
Greg Trusman, heading of lettings at Martin Growld Estate, said, New Zealand offers a clear case study of what happens when policy drives private landlords away and how difficult it is to reverse the damage. Megan 18 of the Association of Residential Letting Agents, Property Mark, said, this example underlines an important lesson for the UK, in that increasing regulation and taxation without supporting landlords risks shrinking supply and driving up rents. Meanwhile, the Portuguese government has proposed a reducing income tax on residential rental income to 10%. Residents are taxed on worldwide income at rates ranging from 12.5 to 48%, according to the accounting firm PwC. The proposals also introduce a 0% tax rate for renters at least 20% below local averages and reduced rates for longer leases. The tax rate would reduce to 5% for leases of more than 20 years. It comes after Chancellor Rachel Reeves raised property income tax by 2% in the budget. On November the 26th, property income will be levied at 22% for the base rate taxpayers, 42% for higher rate taxpayers, and 47% for additional rate taxpayers for the 2027 to 2028 tax year. See, I'm into literally, if you continue raising costs, because this is literally what it's coming down to, it's raising costs for landlords, you're going to push your landlord market out. And you're going to do the exact.
The landlord exodus is already happening. It's been happening for some time. It's been happening since 2016. So there is something that's going on. But rent is 30% over affordability now, and has been for some time, for more than a decade.
Rent is. You should be able to rent a place for either on par or just over what you would get a mortgage for. But literally, I've done my research. And most of the time, if you're renting a property, you're looking at a 30% minimum increase on what if you used to get a mortgage. So if your mortgage is £1,000, you'd be expecting to rent a place for £1,300. So you're immediately
Yes,
it's just causing hassle either way.
I personally find that we need to separate the rest of the country and then deal with London as an individual isolated problem, because of the way that, remember, I'm not joking about those houses, Chris. My family member mentioned to me that they were doing a renting shop, and there was a room that was a quarter of the size that was going for 2,500. And that was it. That was the entire rent. There was no kitchen. The bathroom was sat in that room as well, with a shower and a toilet sat in that room, and a mini fridge.
And no kitchen.
And no kitchen. £2,500.
So £2,500 a month with no means of actually cooking for yourself, which means you would then have to spend more on other bits. Because I could guarantee you, if there's no kitchen, somebody's turning around and forking out for a microwave and living off microwave meals.
It's not healthy. London is a horrific problem that needs multilateral fixing. And don't get me wrong, I don't think the way Labour's approaching it is fixing it. I don't. But I do believe the way that the Tories have allowed the renting market to bloom, and many of these landlords are ex-Tory MPs. That's a fucking scary thing you need to remember.
Cool.
So these cunts, these Tory bastards, are quite responsible for this landlord exodus. Fuck them. The Tories that are leaving the London market, fuck them. I mean that. But something needs to be done about the London bubble problem. And there is a renting horrific problem in London. And a lot of those landlords are Tory or Tory donors. So I don't have any sympathy for them going out the door.
If I'm paying £2,500 a month in rent, I'm expecting at least a 4-bedroom or upwards.
You're a country boy. You are a bumpkin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You have no fucking idea about city living. 20 years ago when I was in London, I paid £1,800 for a shared accommodation. 1,800 fucking bar.
Who the fuck wants to live in a city with that cost?
As I said, that was 1,800. That was a shared. I had my room. We had a shared bathroom, shared kitchen.
Yeah, I know shared accommodation. I've looked at shared accommodation here.
1,800 quid.
And I look at it and I'm like, I don't want to share my fucking ass with anybody. I should go fuck off.
Well, unless it was me.
Even you're fucking questionable.
And then he'd take a look at my wardrobe, burn it, and buy me a new one.
I'm going to be honest, if I had a 4-bedroom house with a double garage with an annex over the top, I'll still question on renting you out the fucking annex.
I'm not that bad. Do I have to live with this cunt?
When it comes to my personal space, it's a fucking goddamn high criteria. You're nowhere fucking near it.
I'm the closest thing to a best friend this cunt's got. He's like, yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm going to live with the cunt.
Anyway, Abdul El Fattah's citizenship row shows shift on question of national identity. Ellen Corey's political correspondents, activists who are entitled to UK passport, but for a rising number of voters, Britishness is something you are born with. This I disagree with. Not for the dirty bastard that is actually being defended. I'm not defending Abdul El Fattah. I'm not. Okay, he is a dirty mass. 15 years ago, he called for the massacre of everyone in Israel. The absolute slaughter of everybody. I am at no point defending his disgusting ideology, where he wants to butcher entire fucking sections of the world. But I don't agree with being British is where you're born. What does it mean to be British? The question is increasingly at the heart of our national political debate, and it has become a more urgent one this week as the Conservatives and Reform UK call for the British Egyptian activist Alan Abdul El Fattah to be stripped of his UK citizenship over racist and offensive tweets he published 10-15 years ago. And they were fucking nasty, Chris. I've looked into them. They're nasty. All right? It's a nasty fucking world. Has he changed? Maybe. Cool. Fair enough. Alhamdulillah. But those tweets were vile. Let's be fair about this.
What was that not checked before he got the citizenship granted?
Say again?
Was that not checked before he got the citizenship?
No.
Then,
I don't think so.
Then
I don't think so.
We need to vet our citizenship better.
Yes. Abdul El Fattah's social media activity was thrust into the spotlight after it was finally allowed to arrive in the UK last week after a decade spent as a political prisoner in Egypt. He's been a political prisoner. So there is, he has, I think his British family or his British race, something like that. The tweet unearthed were vile. They incited call to kill all Zionists and to burn down Downing Street during the 2011 riots. Abdul El Fattah has apologised for those remarks. Like I said, 15 years ago he was an extremist. I would call him an extremist and I'm Muslim. Right?
He said that 15 years ago. What's saying that thought isn't still at the back of his head 15 years later?
Chris, you knew me.
No, not you, him.
No, you've known me a decade.
Yeah.
I was a very violent fucker 10 years ago.
You was.
Okay, so I've changed. It's entirely plausible this man can change.
You've also had me turn around slapping you around the back of your head.
True. But what I'm trying to get at is I was a thug 10 years ago. You and me and many people have helped me change who I am. But the reality is I was realistically quite a violent person. People will change in 15 years. That's why. Now, those tweets...
all the better, though. It's another thing entirely.
But in 15 years, people will change. This wasn't a couple of years ago. This wasn't a couple of months ago. Do you know what I'm saying? This is 15 years. The row is awkward for Labour and the Conservatives because the Conservatives also fought to bring him back to the country. Given that the successive British governments have campaigned for his release, which became a constant issue in 2021 when he was granted UK citizenship. So he was granted citizenship 5 years ago.
Why is he a political prisoner?
I don't know the reasons behind that. It is difficult to imagine, however, politicians such as Nigel Farage or Chris Phillips, the Shadow Home Secretary, calling for Abel Fowles to lose his British paper were he not a dual national from a minority ethnic background. Downing Street stood firm on Monday on the grounds that he had a right to consular support like any other British citizens. Indeed, many Britons who find themselves unfairly detained abroad have dual nationality or foreign heritage. So this is important. Arguably, the two most high-profile cases are those of Nashin Zahid Radcliffe, the British-Iranian mother, who was allowed to return to the UK in 2022 after 6 years of detention in Tehran, and Jimmy Lee, the 78-year-old Hong Kong media tycoon, who faced life in prison after being convicted by Chinese authorities of colluding with foreign forces. These cases demonstrate the multitude of routes that are to become British. Zahid Radcliffe was nationalised after living in the UK for years and marrying a British man. Richard Radcliffe. Lee gained British citizenship in 1996. The last year of Hong Kong was under British rule. So he was a British citizen because we used to rule Hong Kong. Abdul Al-Fayed was entitled to citizenship under the British National Act of 1981 because his mother is a British national, having been born in the UK whilst his mother was studying here. So he was born on this island. But he's dual British things. Now, his tweets, no one's defending his tweets 10, 15 years ago. Radical, disgusting, terroristic ideology. No one's defending that. What I am defending is you can't start calling Britishness something you're born with. Okay? Because of the skin colour you have. Because that's a slippery slope where you come towards what skin colour are you.
You're entering into the racist forum.
Yeah, of course. For the majority of Britons, there is nothing wrong or even remarkable about this. And becoming British is something that is rooted in shared values such as obeying the laws, raising children to be kind, and working hard. A new report by the Institution of Public Policy's research indicates that whilst to remain the case, a rising proportion of voters now believe Britishness is something you are born with, a production of your ethnicity and ancestry, not something you can obtain. According to IPPR finders, 36% of the public people now think you must be born British to be truly British, up from 19% in 2023. No, you're British by the virtue of being a citizen, by having to follow the laws, upholding society, working hard, raising children, respecting the society that you live in. That is British value. Let's be very, very clear. It's not born based upon your ethnicity. The Reform UK and Tory approach to Abdullah Fattah Kois demonstrates how its mainstream politics, the overturned window, has shifted on questions of national identity and cohesion. Both right-wing parties have come under fire during the past year for apparently endorsing policies that would result in mass deportation of people living legally in the United Kingdom. Keir Starmer has shown a desire to put these questions at the heart of his government and his political campaigning in his speech to the Labour Party conference. He cased the next election as a battle for the soul of the country between his own progressive patriotism and Farage's brand of incendiary national politics. But his own ministers and MPs privately argue that Starmer has been too slow or sheepish in making those arguments during moments of crisis, such as Tommy Robinson's far-right march through Westminster, and thus he must go further. Or, as the IPPR puts it, emanating an alternative vision of nation cannot be outsourced to a few speeches or policies. It requires the Prime Minister to tell a story about what Britain is and what he wants it to be. And I happen to agree. And I don't think Starmer has the stones to do it. Because we are not a country based on our skin colour, Chris.
No, we're not.
Because we will fucking lose the country if we do follow that path. If you follow that path, Britain, to its inevitable things, you're going to lose tens of millions of people and your country will collapse.
This is almost going to, literally currently going along the same road as the British flag at the moment.
Yeah.
St. George's flag, which is currently being called racist.
It's not.
But Sean, you're a muppet. You can't turn around and tell people to not fly the their own flag when there's other flags being flown in the background and trying to arrest or find the person flying the British flag.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I fundamentally disagree with that entirely. You either can fly whatever flag you want, or we should only fly the national flags.
Yeah.
You know, there's one or the other. If we're flying, and I'm a supporter of the Palestinians, yeah, let me be very, very clear. If they're like in my local town, there was a Palestinian flag flying off a private building, fantastic. At the same time, there were English flags, fantastic. There were British flags, fantastic. I don't have a problem with any of these flags. I think people need to get over this. Calling the British flag racist, it's not. Okay, it's a point of national identity.
It's also it's literally not, as I call, parallel paths, but different meanings to each one. Because obviously this is about you're British for a certain reason. The other one is whether the flag is racist or not.
It's not. No, the idea, maybe there is an argument because of the firms and football hooligans about the English flag, not the British flag. There might be an argument about how that can be perceived as racist, the English flag itself.
There's an argument it can be perceived, but then all you have to do is you research into the football scene and you'll find that you're an idiot. Yeah. So it's basically a case of
I'm just saying that there is an argument to be had.
There's an argument there, but if you do your own research, you realise you're just being ignorant.
Yeah.
Let's get that straight down to.
But the British flag, the United Kingdom's Union Jack, no, fuck no. The Union Jack is absolutely about uniting all Britons. I've seen hijabic sisters wearing Union Jack fucking headscarves. Okay, I don't buy that for a second that it's racist. Not in the slightest.
I won't even call the St. George's flag racist.
No, of course. But what I'm trying to get at, Chris, is that there are people who will have an argument about it because of the football fucks.
As I call it, there's always the black sheep, which do a dark mark on something that's actually meant to be good. Yeah. You can say that across everywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
So say just pinpointing it just because of the fact you want to use it as a racist argument isn't right. And we should be better these days, people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. But on the point of being Britishness, I fundamentally agree with this argument that we need to make a case for what it means to be British in a multicultural, multiracial society.
Being British, in basic terms for me, is if you're born here, regardless of skin colour, or you've gained a citizenship through whichever legal path is necessary, yeah? That is part. It's not 100% of being British, but it's part of being British, yeah? Those are the, as I call, I think that's the definition of the two legal routes, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But literally being born on the island or gaining citizenship through the legal channels. That's a legal definition. Everything else is up to subject to debate.
Yeah.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised to throw something else legal, but
what is required to be a British citizen? To get citizenship, you generally need to be 18 plus, have lived here in the UK for 5 years, or 3 if married to a citizen, pass the life of UK test, prove English language ability, have few absences from the UK, maximum 450 days over 5 years, and be of good character, no serious crimes, debts, etc., etc. Naturalisation, you have to have been born here or raised here since before your 4th birthday. That's the only real other condition. So if you're a child that's been brought to the island because for safety reasons, like refugees, you're under the age of 4, you're naturalised to a British citizen. Because if you're a teenager and you've been here since 4 years old, your native language is going to be your language is going to be English.
You're basically British.
Yeah. I fundamentally find that most Tommy Robinson supporters and most UKIP supporters, and most Reform supporters, wouldn't pass the British fucking quality test by themselves. No, I'm deadly serious.
And they're the people that are more likely born here.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I have to have that point made clear. I don't think most of those would pass the life in the UK test. And most of them don't articulate themselves within the English language very well either. I mean, I know I swear, but that's a cultural reference from me being raised in London and having Irish parents. But relatively speaking, the articulation of most of Tommy Robinson's mates is gutter snipe. I've seen troglodytous language better given from them. I don't know, I know you'd laugh at that. But what I'm saying is, the lack of articulation from within the Tommy Robinson crowd is a very clear indication of a failure for any of them. They wouldn't pass these tests. They wouldn't pass them. They really wouldn't. And that needs to be argued very clearly, these racist bastards.
Have you actually seen like some of the videos where they're at a protest and using all the slurs and everything else? Then when they actually come into an interview, do you notice they're struggling to word everything correctly? If you actually watch it correctly, you can see their brains ticking.
Lack of cognitive skills, I put that under. But yeah, that's my piece, Chris. Over to you, mate.
No one that's going to make him swear. Blair refused to share intelligence with Ireland over Southfield.
Fucking cunt.
MI5 reportedly rejected a plea from the Irish Prime Minister Bertie Ahern for the UK to share intelligence regarding potential terrorist threats to the Southfield nuclear facility. Seriously, what the fuck, MI5? What the fuck are you playing at? I don't...
Politics.
Literally, it's Ireland. It's our next door neighbour. If anything happens with the nuclear facility over there, we're going to get the fucking fallout. Stop being a bunch of bloody dickheads. God, I thought that would have been common sense.
No.
Newly declassified government files revealed that following the devastating 2004 Madrid train bombing, Mr. Ahern wrote to Tony Blair warning of a transnational catastrophe that could impact Ireland if international terrorists targeted the Cubarian site. However, documents released to the National Archives at Kew, West London, indicated that Mr. Blair declined to request for intelligence sharing, citing the necessary to safeguard the confidentiality of UK sources. Insisted the Irish leader had to settle for an assurance that a British ambassador would brief his officials if any threat to Southfield was uncovered. It followed a warning by MI5 that there could be no guarantees who will have access to it if sensitive materials were shared with Dublin. Failing on diplomacy there. Don't have to give away details, you can turn around and go.
It's a joke.
Yeah. Writing to Mr. Blair following the March 24 coordinated bomb attacks by Islamist extremists on Madrid commuter network, which left 193 dead, Mr. Ahern said it underlined the ruthlessness and determination of global terrorists. I think it was fair to say that terrorist targets that could result in transnational catastrophes deserve to receive special attention, he said. I understand your concerns to safeguard the integrity of the sensitive information about nuclear facilities and the need to guard against detailed information on the design and nature of the nuclear facilities falling into dangerous hands. I believe, however, it should be possible to diverse arguments for the communication of sensitive information in a secure manner. However, the Department of Trade and Industry, which had responsibility for the UK's nuclear facilities, said that MI5, the security service, was not happy with the proposal. These letters signal Irish determination not to let go of Southfield issue. I can't pronounce that name.
Shethrin Sham.
An official in the Secretary of State Patricia Hewitt's private office told Number 10, we have consulted with the security service and concluded that we must maintain a firm line not to release terror-related intelligence of any kind, as there could be no guarantees about who will have access to it, no matter what arrangement we put in place.
You see, that's playing politics.
Right. The only thing I can say is, if you know it is that was a potential target, yeah, what is wrong with picking up the phone to the Ireland Prime Minister and going, look, due to our intelligence...
Well, that's what they said. That's what they said. The ambassador would keep them apprised.
Yeah.
But the problem being is, I don't agree with that. I think they should have shared the intelligence.
Well, no, just a simple case of ringing them up. Due to intelligence we find, obviously due to security reasons, we can't release it, but I'm telling you over the phone, this is a potential target within your area. You need to do what you can to secure it.
I still think they should have been... I think more... And remember, this is Tony Blair. This was the snake oil merchant. This was the lying bastard Tony Blair who dragged us into the Middle Eastern fucking wars. You know, the snake oil merchant, the war criminal Tony fucking Blair.
I don't get how it was extremely hard to just turn around and go, hello, this is a potential threat that could cause global issues. use your own services to lock it down tight and make sure everything's safe and secure. Yeah, don't have to turn around and go, oh, here's all the information. A simple phone call could have warned him easily. I can guarantee you back then, if you would have got a phone call saying this is a potential target, he would have doubled down, even tripled, I don't know, even friggin' locked it up for all I know, to make sure everything was cool.
I fundamentally find that the MI5 were playing politics, and it sounds like it's politics.
Yeah. So what happened?
Protecting their sources is what they do.
So what happened to these lovely documents where they write everything out and then they black out everything they don't want people to know and send,
Chris,
and then send that across?
There is clearly politics going on about it here. You can smell it. And Tony Blair was a fucking useless Prime Minister. As I said, the only person I despise more than Tony Blair is that cunt Johnson.
Mr. Blair sought to reassure him that if the government were to receive intelligence of a real threat to Southfield, they would seek to share that assessment as fully and as quickly as possible, subject to the constraints placed upon us by the originators of that intelligence. How about giving them a fucking warning without having to share intelligence so they can turn around to protect themselves and turn around to protect us as well from nuclear fallout? You just fucking retarded.
Like I said, I stand by my assessment. This was politicated. I suspect the intelligence probably came from Mossad or the CIA, and they don't like sharing because they don't like declaring where their material comes from, because if too much scrutiny was given, you might find it's a false flag. And the CIA have done false flags, so has Mossad. But Britain is quite often aware of what these false flags are going on.
But stupid politics. Yeah. Secret Service should not be playing politics if you're playing.
Oh yeah, safeguarding. Oh, completely.
The thing, but literally, if you know it's going to be a threat to the world, I don't give a shit. Your fucking sensitive information goes out the fucking window.
You can't do that in the intelligence world, Chris. You can't do that in the intelligence world. That's the problem. It's a scary point of view. You done with that one, my boy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm getting frustrated by reading it because all it takes is a fucking phone call. This area is a potential threat. Do what you need to lock it down.
Yeah.
You don't even have to share anything. Just got a fucking phone call.
Cabinet officers accused of cover-up after releasing of official papers referring to Andrew Mountbatten's Windsor's block. The Cabinet Office has been accused of covering up for the royal family after it emerged of official papers which refer to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor have been withdrawn from the National Archives. The annual release of government papers to the archives in Crewe, South West London, under the 20-year rule, including a number 10 file from 2024 to 2025 on royal visits. The version originally made available to journalists under embargoes so that they could prepare stories in advance, including minutes of meetings when officials discussed travel plans of various royals, including the Duke of York, as he was then. However, minutes were subsequently redacted for the file before it was made available to the public. The annual release of government papers to the archives also reviewed MI5 blocked an appeal by Irish Prime Minister Bertrand Arron for the UK to share intelligence on the terrorist threats to the Southfield nuclear, what Chris has previously mentioned. And that's where that documentation comes from. That's why it's all publicised involving it. Number 10 has had to issue a grovelling apology after Prime Minister John Major's birthday telegram to the Queen's mother was addressed as an improper manner. The Cabinet Office, which was responsible for transferring the files to the National Archive, blamed an administration error as they had never been intended to for release. Spokesperson said all records are managed but in line with the requirements of the Public Record Act. Any release is subject to extensive review processes, including engaging in expert stakeholders. However, Graham Smith, Chief Executive of Anti-Monarchy Campaign Group Republic, said that there were no justifications for withholding the documents, especially since Andrew has been stripped of his royal status amidst continual controversy over his links with the paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. There should be no royal exempts at all, but this exemption surely doesn't apply to Andrew now that he's no longer a royal, Mr. Sid said. The most likely reason for these attempts to stop disclosure is pressure from the palace. The royals have sought to keep everything under wraps when it comes to Andrew, not to protect him, but to protect themselves. The royals are one of the most secretive institutions in the UK. Their documents should be released without fear or favour to allow the public to make informal judgments about the royals. Meanwhile, Labour MPs for York Centre Rachel Maxwell urged the government to provide clarity on what these files were not, or why these files were not published. She told the Independents the government should say why papers have been withdrawn. If this is the case, all the public want is transparency. If there is an issue which could highlight the risk to others, then clearly this information should be reported to the appropriate authorities. There is also a lot of questions which now are being asked in the light of these releases of the Epstein papers. For what we know, young women were trafficked. I make no assertions, just clear calls for clarity. Mr. Mountbatten Windsor, who was also denied any wrongdoing, was earlier this month formally stripped of his last remaining royal titles, following controversy over his links to Epstein, with King Charles ordering that his membership of the Order of the Garter, to which he was appointed in 2016, be removed. It came 1 month after the 65-year-old was stripped of both of his HRH style and his prince titles. Mr. Mountbatten Windsor's role in the family came to an end and over growing concerns about his association with Epstein after the palace announced that he would lose all his royal titles. It is also said that he would leave his royal lodge residence, which he has. The minutes, which were seen by journalists, including the Press Association, before they were pulled from the files, appeared to be unexceptional, as in they're not important piece of information, basically. There is a discussion by senior palace and foreign officers about his travel plans as a UK trade envoy, which earned him the nickname Air Mile Andy, whilst visiting to China, Russia and Southeast Asia and Spain. Officials also raised an issue of whether the Football Association would be prepared to pay for him to attend the Euro 2004 tournament in Portugal as a royal representation. It was noted that a change to the rules for royal travel meant that his visits as a trade envoy would in future be funded by the Royal Travel Office rather than the UK Trade and Industry, which would have to find an additional $90,000. Elsewhere, the minutes showed that a bid for the Prince of Williams, now the Prince of Wales, to visit China was turned down on the grounds that he should not undertake official duties until he was at least 25 years of age. The retention of these minutes underlined that the way the file related to the royal family are routinely withheld for release under the Public Record Act. I agree with the withdrawal of paperwork, and my reasons is because A, it doesn't look like it was anything important, and B, hadn't been scrutinised towards the trauma that's been going on with Andrew as it is. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it's been done deliberately to protect British sovereignty, and I don't have a problem with protecting British sovereignty.
If the stuff that's been released is nothing to do with any harm, what's the bloody point?
That's the point. They were released by accident.
Yeah.
So they've been released by accident. They're not anything important, and they've been pulled back. And that's what the controversy. The Republic are making controversy about them being pulled back. They're not even, vastly damaging. It's travel for the Euro and football, travel for trade, and William being told he shouldn't travel until he's 25 as a royal official on his own.
That's pretty standard documentation.
Yeah, of course. But it was withdrawn because it wasn't given the normal vetting systems. Is what the office is saying.
I don't really see an issue here.
No, nor do I. But the storm in the teacup is there because they consider it a cover-up because it involves Andrew. They're making smoke. Yeah. Do you see?
They're trying to make a fire out of nothing.
Yeah. And I agree with the withdrawal. There was nothing valuable that was in the documentation. If the press conversation is correct by the iPaper, there's nothing controversial. In the documentation is just basically quite forward. It's just been withdrawn because it hadn't reached prior approval. We live in a bureaucratic fucking country. How does that surprise people? Well, that's my last. I think Chris has got some more just for you.
Yeah. Couple of quick ones. One that's a bit of annoying, but there you go. Contactless train ticket rollout causes higher prices. I don't get how the fuck that works.
We need to nationalise the rail systems. Yeah. I've said that. Regardless of, we have nationalised the tracks, we now need to nationalise the trains.
The rollout of contactless train ticket payments have seen prices rise across the southeast England. Contactless ticketing enables people to pay for travel by tapping a bank card or contactless able device on readers at stations, avoiding the need to manually purchase a ticket. So convenience, basically. It was introduced to 30 more stations in southeast England on December 14th as part of the Department of Transportation. Changes to paper ticketing time restrictions to align with Transport for London's contactless structure, meaning services could previously be used with an off-peak ticket, now require a more expensive ticket. the first weekday London-bound South service from Reigate, Surrey, that can be boarded with an off-peak ticket day travel card now departs at 9:20 a.m. compared to 8:58 a.m. previously. But when the 8:58 train calls at Redhill just 5 minutes later, passengers are still able to board it with an off-peak ticket. A day travel card can be used at any time for the station's cost of £37.10, whereas in an off-peak version is £20.60. There are also new regulations on travelling between 4 and 7 p.m. It sounds like I don't get why it's going up. It should really just cover
the whole system needs overhauling, Chris. Yeah. I genuinely do believe we need to rebuild
Train operator Governor Thomas Link Railway said the changes meant many passengers would save money and insisted the process will not designed to increase fares revenue. Rebecca Paul, and the Conservative MP for Bridgegate, said the new rules risk pricing passengers out of rail altogether. Ms Paul said that it has been contacted by a number of residents who are understandably frustrated by the expense of the contactless. This change should make rail travel easier, not more expensive or confusing, she said. Reigate passengers deserve the benefits of modern ticketing, but I will not stand by while my constituents face higher fares and fewer affordable travel options.
Of course, absolutely. But again, the Tories are doing this from a double-edged knife. Remember, they're the people who like an increase in financial means and capacity.
If they're making, if they've gone to contactless and paperless, that's fine. So why is the pricing shit changed for? Just because you've literally just moved the time post to the train so you can turn around and charge the more expensive ticket.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's literally what they've done.
Oh yeah.
They've just moved it. On a more positive note.
Yeah, Chris has got one of those.
The tech bro planned to cut the price of Britain's electricity. This sounds positive.
It does. It does indeed.
Alan Chan isn't shy about putting the boot into rivals. At Revolt, he was part of a team that spearheaded the tech startups push into the stodgy world of banking, ruffling plenty of feathers along the way. The company became known for long working hours, aggressive tactics, and a get shit done attitude, with Chan seen as one of its toughest lieutenants before his exit 3 years ago. Now, the 32-year-old executive started his own business, Fusion Energy. He wants to shake up the energy industry as well. So far, he doesn't think much of the competition. Energy is probably 10 times more complex than banking, he says. But if you look at the sophistication of energy, it's actually even lower than the incumbent banks. Now, the energy companies we see in the market today have good technology. That's what we're bringing. Fuse currently serves 200,000 customers, but the number is growing fast, having already tripled this year on the back of the cheap energy deals. Meanwhile, Chang and his co-founder Charles Orr, another Revolt alumni, have stuck some eye-catching deals with investors. This month they closed a $70 million, $52 million fundraising round that valued the fledgling company at $3.7 billion, up from $1 billion as recently as July. Damn, they're growing fast.
Yeah, fuck, that's huge.
Balaton Capital, an early Revolt investor, and Lower Carbon Capital were among the previous bankers that have put more cash in. They have also joined for the first time by Quantum Light, the personal vehicle of Nikolai Stofolsky, the Revolt founder. But the deal has raised eyebrows, valuing the company at half that of a bigger rivals, Octopus Energy and British gas owner Centric, which have roughly 35 times as many customers each. They are making some very aggressive, outrageous claims, says one rival executive. That's probably their Revolt DNA paying off. Another puts it more bluntly, a valuation increase is not that meaningful if the rounds are all existing investors.
That's good.
Yeah, the challenge from Fuse comes after a decade of flux in the market, when more traditional players such as British Gas and EDF have been overtaken by new by newer companies such as Octopus and OVO Energy. In the past few years, wildly fluctuating prices have also killed off a string of smaller suppliers which lack robust finances, but Chang is ambient that the Fuse has found a gap in the market that it can exploit. His opponents would be unwise to write him off. As a young physics graduate, he became Rolls' 5th employee, aged just 21, and rose to become Chief Revenue Officer by 27. When he left a year later, he was already a millionaire. While working on Revolt, Chang became Struckland's right-hand man and helped build Revolt into what it is today, he says. The startup became known for its hard charging culture and oppression, with performance targets and staff working 12 to 13-hour shifts and often weekends as well.
That's, ow, fucking, I don't want to work there.
We're not about long hours, Rothschild insisted in one of his years. We're about getting shit done.
I don't know. You'd have to pay me well to get me to work those kind of hours.
If people have this mentality, they work long hours because they want it. Chang would lead weekly conference calls during which he could grill managers and demand updates on what they have achieved that week, cutting people off mid-sentence by saying next, according to one account by a tech magazine. Weird. Damn.
Ouch. As positive as you thought it would be?
Fuse has recently been offering energy tariffs that are £260 cheaper per year than competitors.
That is fucking cheaper.
According to Uswitch, if you said this month it would be its latest investment to expand into the US, Ireland and Spain. Still, rock bottom prices are hardly new in the energy market. In fact, they have been the downfall of several smaller suppliers before, so if Fuse is different, I've got some questions at Revolt, says Chang. Ultimately, it becomes down to the team. You can do the same things as others on paper, but one of you can do it worse and one can do it better. He's out to make it. He's out to make waves, and he's currently doing it.
He's doing it.
£260 cheaper a year. People, I would look it up.
You know, that's not. I mean, I don't like his working hours. They're fucking horrible.
No, I mean, it's a thing like getting energy from him. Obviously, if you go to work with him, do your freaking research.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you go to work for him, do your research. It may not be for you.
Chris, how much would he have to offer you to work for him for that kind of bullish behaviour?
The decimal point would have to come after 3 zeros.
So it'd have to be 100 bar, would it?
Yeah.
100 bar, I'll take that.
With bonuses.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe, is that you done, my boy?
That's done, yeah.
Yeah. As always, thank you for those who've reached the end of our first podcast of season 3. We've been doing this a fucking year now. Damn.
It did actually say on the YouTube thing that we got that is a year. It's our birthday. Yeah,
it is. We January, December we started last year. To everyone who's got to this at the end of podcast 1 of season 3, thank you very much. As always, I'm John, Sean or Jaeger. Depends on all you're asking. This is, as always, your voice, your nation.
I'm Chris. Hope you have a smashing day.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.